the stop.
My goodness, what a save.
What a save. What a glove save there.
What a stop. Looked like a sure goal.
You talk about an A+ save and maybe the save of the night.
Welcome to the Goalie Science Podcast, the podcast where we try to bridge the gap between goaltending science and peak performance. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Phillips, a physical therapist and goalie performance specialist. I'm joined as always by Dr. Ben Cernick and goalie coach Derek Fujian. Whether you're at home, at the rink, or in the car, grab a cup of your favorite beverage and let's drop the puck on this week's episode. Welcome to another episode of Goalie Science. We went from Ben only to no Ben. What else is new? Boosh, it is November, Movember, as they say. For those watching on YouTube, you are looking festive.
It is what it is.
It is what?
It is sexy season.
Sexy season, yeah. I'm not a real man, so I can't grow a full mustache. So I can grow a little bit. It's not thick though, and I have to shave like the rest of my face down to like the skin in order for it to be visible.
You got to make it pop, but I think you should do it. I think you look just like your old man if you did it though.
I do look like my dad when I do it. Freya's not a big mustache person. I'm more of like the 5 o'clock shadow kind of guy because like my face is still like a little babyish and round. So you can't see my rounded jawline, then I don't have one. Then you can infer that it's structured.
If I don't have facial hair, then I'm really ugly. So I gotta have something. So like even when I go to the mustache and I shave down like the scruff here, I'm just like, oof. But after a couple of days, I get used to it. My daughter screamed when she saw me. That was probably that. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm very ugly if I don't have facial hair either. So, and I'm only moderately ugly when I have facial hair, so I can get away with it. Any news on your end? I can have one big update. Fully licensed physical therapist in the state of Michigan. Also, one of my USHL goalies got goalie of the week. So obviously I jinxed him for this weekend, but it's good to see because you know what, Peck's been putting in a lot of work, and it's not like I'm not gonna call it a project because he's incredibly good, committed to the University of Michigan, so go blue. But he's a very good student of the game, and I like, you have goalies and they just like ask you questions, and you're like, that is a good question. I'm excited for this answer. He's one of those goalies where it's coming in. He's like, hey, I need some help, like with this situation. He's like, I feel like, my play reading is behind. Like when someone's doing this, what are the options? And I'm just like, yes, let's have this discussion. This is great. Here are my videos. Like I've worked hard on this. And so it's good to see him have some success because one of the biggest things, and think that I'm probably, jazzes me up about it, is he's a big guy, super athletic. Like I think he's like 6'3", 6'4", incredibly quick, incredibly flexible. And what we did is we simplified his game a little bit. We, backed him up a little bit. We worked on, for me, getting his confidence and like convincing him that it's okay to be slightly deeper because he's going to beat everything on his feet. And we watched our 2-on-1, like our videos, like 2-on-1s, lateral releases, beating everything on his feet, like not sliding. And now he's making these huge saves look really easy. And it's just like, it's one of those ones where you're just like, yes, now you are getting it. This is what we like to see. So, you know what? Shout out Stephen Peck.
You know what? That's fun is like you kind of inherit guys, and all they want to do is slide, and then it's like it's like a battle to get them to understand why they want to hold their feet. And even like for I'd say the first 3 or 4 weeks, it's a battle to get them to execute it properly. But the second they start to do it, it's like, oh, that's really easy. It's like, yeah, that's the point, man. Like that's what we're trying. We're simplify things and make things easier for you. News front. Nothing, I would say, nothing positive, but I mean, I think I bring the crankiness and negativity to the pod anyway. But I do have like a little message because we have talked about it, and I know you guys, before I became an official member of the Goalie Science podcast, talked about the transition from minor hockey to junior, and I have had this week some conversations with some junior coaches, with some high level goalies that have made that transition that are struggling a little bit, not so much with their performance, but the words of has to be more professional and act like a professional and mature. So I had to have a couple hard conversations earlier this week with some kids and kind of read them the riot act and just kind of said, this is unacceptable behavior. And I'm sure if he's listening, he knows what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to call him out because he knows who he is. But that's just something like for any goalie listening to this, when you are moving up from minor hockey, and if you've had an incredibly successful minor hockey career and you are a highly touted prospect and drafted highly and highly recruited, and you move into junior, it's not always easy when things don't go well for you. So you need to be prepared and have an understanding on how to handle things when things aren't going the way you've expected them to go. And that's something that we'll continue to talk about with all of our students. So positive news? Nah, not really.
Well, obviously, we're not calling anyone out. They know who they are. And if they have been scolded by you, which I have been many times, you know how much you feel shame and you immediately switch things. And I before we get into, like, curious, I think we have a few things we want to talk about on our list today, but I do want to touch on, like, what are some things that the kids can do, you know, to be a little bit more professional, not only when they're transitioning to junior, but a lot of those habits kind of start now. And I know that even at a young age, when you are being scouted and evaluated, coaches and scouts and the people who are making those decisions do watch what you're doing off the ice, not only on social media, but also like when you leave the rink and when you show up to the rink. Like those things, there's checklists that scouts look for, and your demeanor is important. So right before I pass it over to you to talk about some of those things, I remember one time, I think I probably would have been 14. I think I was still playing in Caledonia. I wore white socks with dress pants and you scolded me. And I have never, ever once done that in my entire life after that. And now when I see it, I'm like, oh, Derek would have absolutely yelled at me.
It was so cringe, like so cringe.
You're such a Gen Z. You're saying cringe.
But like nowadays, now it's like the tailored pants that are 6 inches shorter with no socks and your dress shoes. Like things have changed, but so people, I do still see white socks, and now it's probably a little more socially acceptable. But back when you were 14, which was what, like 1995, you kind of, yeah, that was a big no, and yeah, you need to get scolded for that.
Yeah, it was true. And I don't mind the short pants with the no socks, but short pants with white socks when you're wearing dress stuff still doesn't fly. Although one thing I will say that I'm on the fence. I get it. I get style.
Hanes from Walmart or Target, pack of 8 with the red Hanes name on the top of the strap. Like, dude, like you're going straight to senior hockey. Get out of here.
I'm still on the fence about the the basketball kicks, like the fresh kicks with like a suit. I'm on the fence. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. For me, I don't rock it, but I think as long as you're trying to be professional, I'm okay with that. There's some
rock it.
You think it's okay?
Well, no, I just think you're too old to rock it. Like
I'm also not shoe. I'm not a shoe guy.
But I mean, like, I watched Leaf game the other night. William Nylander came in with a white and blue pair of Nike Air Force Ones. I was like, all right, he looks pretty good. Now,
yeah,
am I letting my kid do that? No, because my kid stinks. But if you make 12 a year, you can bounce to your own beat and do whatever you want.
Yeah. I think it sounds bad because you're like, oh, you can't. If you make $12 million a year, you can kind of do whatever you want. I'm not a shoe guy. Like the shoes I wear are $40 Amazon barefoot shoes, and they're great because I have super wide feet, and I had to sell like all my nice looking, like my fancy looking sneakers because they hurt my feet because I'm getting old. But what are the, like, not calling out that kid, obviously, what are some of the big taboos and things to avoid on the unprofessional side that you see a lot of young men and women kind of struggle with in their transition to higher level hockey, where that professionalism starts to matter a lot more?
All right, let's start with the off ice stuff. Okay, we'll get to the on ice stuff, but let's start being late. Like if you're late for practice, like if you're a rookie and you have to be at practice 45 minutes before it starts, you need to be there an hour before. Like that is common sense to me. So like right off the bat, like you can't be late. if you are the backup goalie or the third string guy, if you're in college or new to the team, like you're there early, you're there first. If you're taking it seriously, like get in there, get on the foam roller, lacrosse ball, whatever you do your mobility, and you're the first guy in there or one of the first guys, and you make sure that you go and say hi to the coach. Like make sure that coach knows that you're there early, it's not late. Using the excuse of traffic doesn't work. Like you have to act like a professional, and showing up earlier than you're supposed to be there is part of that gig. And that's one thing that I've had some kids struggle with is showing up on time, which baffles me because like I was 2 hours before puck drop. Like I just wanted to be at the rink. Like you know that you want to be at the rink, and being there early shows that you want to be at the rink. So that's number one for me. And then number two is like just preparation. Like, are you prepared? Are you doing the things that you need to prepare? Like, is it hydration? Is it your pregame meals? Is it your pregame routine? Like all of these things matter. They're important. And I think you don't realize how much those things matter until you realize that you've made a mistake with them. Like when your routine isn't on point and your hydration isn't on point and your performance is really starting to struggle and you're trying to fix the things on the ice, but it's not working, you got to look deeper. And that's probably somewhere to start, is that preparation. And that's all part of being professional.
Yeah, I agree. Both those I'm going to add on the preparation side. In my brain, I was going to classify as recovery, preparation, same thing. Like, what are you doing before you get there? Sleep, type of hydration. That's one of the things is that most kids have a lot of control of. I get sometimes, if you're in college or high school, like sometimes you got to study for a test or you got to grind in your homework because you've been traveling. I get it. So it's not always going to be perfect, but I would say, 80-20, like 80% of the time you should be hitting your sleep targets, or at least the hours of sleep. Which drives me crazy. It's like I skate like early in the morning, 6 to 7, like consistently throughout the week with goalies. And usually it's not my goalies, but it's my shooters who will come in and complain about how tired they are. Like, what were you doing last night? Oh, we were all playing poker till 3 a.m. Or we were all playing video games till 3 a.m. And I'm just like, why were you doing that? Oh, it's like, you guys know that it's Thursday and you have a game on Saturday against a team you haven't beat ever, and you want to play well, but you spent all week staying up till 3 a.m. and then waking up at 7, and then you're complaining about how tired and sore you are. I don't have sympathy for that. As someone whose job it is not only to coach on the ice, but to do like rehab and stuff off the ice, I'm like, oh, you're wondering why you're always injured and tired? Have you tried getting 8 hours of sleep? And then it's it's that, like those little things. And I'm not saying having these conversations to my 13-year-olds. Obviously, these are conversations I'm having to my 15, 16, 17, 18, and 20 plus year olds, because they are at a time they are more mature. They need to take, and we talked about it in one of the ones that you like to use, like the Jocko Willey phrase, is taking ownership of their game. And it's a time for them to take ownership because, mommy and daddy are no longer there to hold your hands as much as you think they shouldn't be. It's time for you to become a professional and become a young man or woman and be able to, this is what you want. Like, if you want to play hockey at a high level, these are the things you need to do. If you are okay just playing hockey because you enjoy playing hockey and you have no aspirations, that's okay. That's nothing wrong with that. It's just not, you can do whatever you want then, but then don't be upset if you are tired and hurt and not performing well because you haven't done the necessary things to prepare to play.
Yeah, and I think like when we start talking on those podcasts, the conversation usually circles around kind of the elite athlete, because if someone is out there listening to this podcast, they're probably somebody who is striving to get to the next level and is taking it seriously. And you hit the nail on the head with if you just want to play hockey for fun and you don't want to use the game to try and get into the professional ranks or get to the college ranks, then all of the stuff that we're talking about in terms of being a professional and acting professional don't apply to you. And that's okay. You can play and enjoy the game and have fun. Like, what I want as a coach is that every kid that I coach is still playing hockey at 25 years old and enjoying playing, right? So those kids that are pushed that burn out and end up resenting the game that we try to avoid. And the question that I have a lot of times with my clients and the goalies that I work with is, I will just straight up ask them, I'm like, do you want to play at the highest level? Is your goal to get to the OHL? Is your goal to get to Division I college? And if they say yes, then I say, okay, I will push you and keep pushing you and keep pushing you until you tell me that that is no longer what you want. And the second that you say to me, I no longer want to play in the OHL or play college hockey, then our conversations will be dramatically different. And it will not be me pushing you. It will not be me trying to give you tough love. It'll be me supporting you, and we'll have a lot more fun. But that is the choice that they make. They are asking us to push them. So that is how we will handle it.
Yes, agreed. And this carries perfectly good segue, Boosh. I don't know if that was intentional, but you nailed it into our conversation with parents, because I like yourself going through it with you. And now that the role I'm in with minor hockey players is I've had this conversation with many players and parents. And one thing I do want to kind of, I don't want to say reiterate, but want to hit on is the conversation. There's a very big difference between having a conversation with your athlete and saying like, is this what you want? And having the conversation with the parent. The parent is going to give you the parent answer. The kid is going to give you probably a little bit closer to the truth. And usually when you have this conversation, like I've had it many times, and when a kid, like, what is this what you want? And you can see if they're hesitant or they don't know, and then like, okay, like I'm not going to push you really hard until you come to me and you're like, yes, this is what I want. But then you have the conversation with a parent and it's like, no, yeah, little Jimmy or Sally, this is what they want. And it's like, is it what they want or is it what you want? Because every time, every time I see your kid at the rink, they're crying. It's probably, and you're yelling. So there's a disconnect there. But this brings us into, we give parents a hard time. You are the only parent on this pod. So you get lumped in, but you give yourself a hard time. But I think instead of giving parents a hard time, because it's the last few episodes have been that, let's talk about what parents can do and things they should avoid to support their young athlete from all different ages, from the athlete himself to dealing with coaches and to dealing with organizations. And so these are things that to look for and things that are going to help long-term and not hinder development or anything along those lines. So Booch, like, you're talking to a parent. I come up, I'm a parent, new hockey player, like, Derek, I want the best for my kid. Like, what can I do to support them?
Well, number one, don't let your kid be a goalie, because that's crazy. If nobody was a goalie, we wouldn't have a podcast. So just number one, don't be a goalie. But I think as a parent, I think, like, if we want to talk about things that parents shouldn't do, it's going to be very hard for me not to get down the negative path here, and I'm going to try my very best.
Well, we can get negative. We can get negative as long as we end it with some constructive feedback on how to fix that. Because we have to see, like, we got to look at the bad and then come up with what are the alternatives.
Yes. Okay. So the number one thing as developers that we hear, and let's just go after this first, is parents that criticize their coaches. They criticize practices. I mean, we do that on this podcast too.
But we are also coaches.
Yeah. They criticize practices. They criticize decisions in game. They criticize everything. What parents don't realize is that coaches want to succeed. They want the most for your kid, but they also want the best for the team. Coaches don't climb behind a bench and actively make choices trying to lose. And what parents who are sitting up in the stands are watching these games, and this guy's an idiot, what is he doing? This coach is making choices with probably 2 or 3 steps in advance of what he is thinking is going to work out best. And as parents, we sit up top in our ivory stools and we criticize every single move when we're not in the trenches, we're not talking to the kids in between shifts, and we're not live time making those decisions. We are live time second guessing those decisions. So I think the first thing is like parents have to understand that coaches want to succeed. They want to win. They want to give your child an environment where they can have success. They are trying to find ways to put your kid in a position to have success. And the first thing that parents do is they jump on their coaches. And I think that is something that, we've dealt with it for a long time. That's never going to change. But I think a lot of parents have to just realize it's like, when you look at your coach, that coach wants to have success. Like, they are actively trying to find solutions to problems to have success for you, your team, your athlete, that team, and themselves.
Yeah. So agree with that 100%. So what would be your feedback to that parent who typically is openly criticizing the coach at meetings, at, dinners, at the game? Like, how it's hard to be like, hey, you need to flip this switch, which probably the answer, but what would you recommend?
Apply for the team. You have all the answers. Guess what? In November, they have coaching applications for next year. You got all the answers, Billy, and throw your name in that, and we'll see how good of a job you do. That's really it.
True.
Like,
No, it is true. It's either put up or shut up kind of thing.
Yeah.
The next one I'm going to go into is yelling during practice or games at your kid. I guess we'll put the coaches or other players, anyone on the team, whether it's the poets or the kids on your child's team. I don't, it sounds, when I say it out of my mouth, you're like, yeah, that is obvious. That is dumb. Don't do that. However, I spent a lot of time watching minor hockey games. That is not the case. When you come to the rink, it's not about you. And I know, like, you are invested in your kid. I get it. Like, we are also crazy invested in your kids too. Like, I stay up at night trying to think about what I can do to get my goalies better. Let your kid play when they get to the rink. Just internalize it. Yes, cheer them on. Like, yeah, for sure, clap. But when you're yelling this, that, or yelling at the refs, just try your best to internalize it or just hold it in. Because one, it's not going to change anything about the outcome. And two, it's pretty embarrassing. Like, not gonna lie, like, it's very embarrassing for you. And second, and then we get to the older athletes. If you're scouting and if you hear little Jimmy's mom yelling at Jimmy and all the other players, you automatically go, parent's an issue. And then you have to deal with that. And that is, again, we talk about parent cuts and all these things. That qualifies under a parent cut, or you're not going to move forward as far because you have the classic crazy hockey parent.
The stereotypical crazy hockey parent, and I hope parents are listening to this and this hits, is always someone that never played the game and has absolutely no idea what they're talking about. You don't see, on my son's team, we have, I think there's 3 former professional players as parents and 2 guys that play Division I hockey on my son's team. Those guys are the quietest guys there. They don't say anything. They sit there, they watch, they have no opinions. They're very quiet. The parents that I've dealt with that we call crazy hockey parents are the ones that never played. They didn't play the game. And they're the ones that can't see the forest through the trees, stealing your line, because they weren't there. They didn't play the game. It's been like that forever. It's the guys that can't catch a football or can't skate that have all the opinions and have all the answers. I don't know if anybody's played the game before, but the game is loud. There's skates and sticks and battles and pucks bouncing, and there's crowd noise. Your kid can't hear you yell skate. They cannot hear it. They have all of this external noise. They are focused on trying to play. You can yell skate, skate, skate. They cannot hear you. So just stop yelling skate. Just sit there and watch. And I understand that it's hard. I had a moment last year where I yelled something from the stands and I was absolutely embarrassed that I let it get to that point. And I had to go in the car and self-reflect and beat myself up for it. So it happens, but it's just the constant times. Like, let your kid enjoy the game. And it's, if you're the guy yelling skate, 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 and you can't skate, that should tell you something.
Yeah. And I can say from firsthand experience, nothing burns you out and spoils the game more than your parent yelling at you, whether that's in the stands or in the car ride, which would be my next point. My dad, keep trying to get him on the pod because he actually pretty good. He's pretty level, most of the time, pretty level-headed guy and intelligent. But he was a crazy hockey dad when I used to be a forward, and I was good for my small little town that I was in. And my dad yelled and screamed and brought me to the point where I hated playing hockey. And I was like, if I don't become a goalie, I don't want to do this at all. Unfortunately, he saw the error of his ways and he just said, this is your thing and I'm going to support you. And only one time, I was in Welland's AAA and I was starting to play well. And then in practice, I was definitely dogging it because I dogged it a little bit. And he yelled at me over the stands and I at a practice and I skated up to the glass and I said, if you ever yell at me again, I'm quitting hockey. And he never yelled at me again. And then from there on, he just supported me, thought I was terrible, but supported me.
Before we move on, the one thing, you reminded me because your dad was like this, and I have a couple other parents that I've tried to talk sense into this, is they won't watch the game. Like they'll drop the kid off, they'll go sit at Tim Hortons, and they have so much anxiety that they cannot watch their child play goalie. And I like that you said it earlier, is like you sitting in the stands have zero outcome on the game. If you're going to give up the opportunity to watch your child play a sport that they love and watch the joy it brings them because you feel like you're going to have a negative outcome on the game, like you're crazy. Your dad was like that a little bit. I have a couple other clients.
My dad was like that a lot of bit. My dad legit like tracksuits, like team tracksuits that are meant to prevent you like from showing sweat. He would sweat through 2 sweaters and a tracksuit watching games. Like he was a lot of it like that.
And yeah, it is nerve-wracking and there is anxiety, but you're giving up so much quality time and core memories as a parent watching your child grow up playing this sport that you can't get back. And I have a mother of a female goalie who's playing U18 that has never seen her play a game. And I'm like, your daughter is in her last year of hockey before she goes to university. And she's probably not a goalie that will play after this year. She's good, but she's not at that level that she can move on. And I'm like, you have very finite amount of opportunities to watch her play. Get your ass in the arena, sit there, shut up, and watch. She won't do it. So if you're a parent out there, it's not about you. It is not about you. There's nothing more I love than watching my kid play. And yeah, it's hard because some nights he's great and some nights he's playing dodgeball out there. But I wouldn't give up that for anything. There's no way. You're going to regret it if in 15 years you're like, yeah, I only saw a couple games because I didn't want to make her nervous. Well, she's nervous anyway, but the second the game starts, she's not nervous. And this is the same thing. Goes back to people who didn't play the game. Like if you're a parent that didn't play the game, sometimes the ideas you have in your head are a little bit skewed. And remember, it's not about you. Like, go watch your kid play. You're going to regret it, I guarantee you.
Yeah. And I could say, like, I don't want to speak too much for my dad, but I know, like, when I first moved away from home, he stopped, having to drive me to hockey. He missed that. He would come watch me a little bit in college and pro. That's when he would sweat through his 6 layers. But when the games weren't close or weren't surrounding Ontario, he would wait for me to tell him the results of the game and then would go back and watch the game. So, and then even you ask him now, like he even said, he's like, oh, I miss watching you play. Like, I miss these things. And so, learn from his mistakes and sit there and watch it. Do you think, as you were talking, something popped in my mind that never occurred is, do you think some parents avoid the rink because they're worried about what the other parents are saying? Because, when you're the goalie, the spotlight is on you. That's the part of the position. And from association, the spotlight is on the goalie parent. And, you kind of, maybe it's in their own heads, or is that just something that you're a goalie parent, so that's something you've experienced? And as a goalie coach, when I watch games, they give up a goal, everyone looks and goes, oh, what should they have done? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm just enjoying my coffee. Give me a break.
Oh yeah, and that's why at the beginning I said don't let your kid be a goalie, because that's a thing. Like, yeah, if you're walking through the lobby after a tough loss and your child didn't have a good game, and everybody stops talking as you walk by, you're automatically thinking, oh, they're blaming my kid. But kid, that's reality. Like, and I say this to our guys that I train. I'm like, you know what you signed up for. They're gonna blame you when you lose. They're not gonna give you the credit when you win. And you got to be okay with it. And that's why we're like our own little community. And that's why you see usually on a team, goalie parents are pretty friendly with each other, because that's really, like their only support staff that they have, that they can kind of
Usually,
yeah. You have those moments where it's like, well, my kid was better, but now my kid's not. So I hate you because that's parents' fault, right? No, that is it. I mean, and it's tough because I had a good conversation this weekend we were in a tournament, and I had a good conversation with another parent about just like parents having rose-colored glasses on when they see their kids. And this gentleman's like, he's like, you're the only parent that doesn't have rose-colored glasses on. I'm like, I do not have. So it's not, I don't worry about what the other parents are saying about my kid, because I see it myself, and I see more than they see, whether it's good or bad. But that is, I can definitely see, like, goalie moms is probably the hardest person to be in the entire world. And I have all the respect for them to be able to sit there, support their child, watch their child, and then, have to kind of hear those rumblings. And it's, so basically, forward parents, shut up. Like, if you're a forward parent, stop blaming the goalie. Your kid sucks too. He can't forecheck, block a shot. He can't back check. Like, miss that open net. Like, zip it. Stop blaming the damn goalie, you bunch of morons.
Yeah, it's always the goalie's fault when you give up like 60 shots a night and you lose 6-4. It's like, goalies need to be better.
Really, the coaches are kind of the same. So
I know. I have conversation daily with coaches.
Oh my God. I had a conversation yesterday from a coach of a U14 team that a guy like I really like. I'm really good buddies with him. They lost 3-2. He sends me the 3 clips. He's like, our goaltending is terrible. Goal number 1, a pressured breakaway. So they score 1-0. Goal number 2, 5-layer screen on a 5-on-3. Point shot that goes posted in. Coach is like, he's got to have that. I'm like, there's 5-layer screen on a 5-on-3. So like literally just straight line. And then number 4, or the third goal, the game-winning goal with about 1:20 left, another breakaway that went shot posted in. Like, those are the 3 goals. And I have this coach saying, our goaltending has just got to be better. I looked at the game sheet. His team took 36 minutes in penalties. 36 minutes in penalties. And we need better goaltending.
I had a conversation with a coach. So we had a goalie who's, I'm encouraging them to play the puck more. They are not a bad puck handler. They just lack the confidence. And this last weekend, they played the puck really well. They had some turnovers, but actually one did result in a goal, but they still won the game. Everything was good. I think they only gave up 2 goals on the whole night. And when we did video, I just said like, hey, like I don't want you to dwell on your turnovers. Like, I'm very happy that you had the confidence to go out and play the puck. Also, other than that one gaffe you had, everything was good. Your vision was good. You were looking like, boom. And then I go to have a meeting with the coach, and he goes, puck handling was just atrocious. I go, I don't want to play the puck anymore. I go, no, I just worked so hard to get the comment. I told the coach, I was like, he's like, yeah, I think the only thing I would agree with you is, on the PK, if you don't want them throwing the sauce up to the open man, sure, I get that. You'd rather break it out. So we'll talk to you about that. But like, look, your goalies are still in developmental mode. I want them to be confident and play the puck. And I told them, like, they're going to turn it over, and sometimes they're going to bail themselves out, and sometimes it's going to cost them. But I want them being confident and going for it, because the alternative is they don't play the puck at all, and you're pinned in your zone all the time. So you tell me what you want.
And these are the same coaches that when they get to U16 and U18 are pissed because their goalies won't play the puck. It's the exact same. Like, it's like you want your goalies to all be good puck handlers, but we never practice it. We never work on communication, and I yell at them whenever they turn it over in games. But I want them to be good at puck handling. Yeah, he's got to be better. Our D are getting killed because he refuses to play the puck. Okay. Well, at U13, when you scared the crap out of him and said, "I don't want you playing the puck," like you made your own bed. Like, what do you want from us?
Yeah. Back to parents. Back to parents. Where were we? The car ride home.
Car ride
home. Yes, this one hits close to home. I have cried many a times in the car ride home after scoring 4 goals and still getting yelled at. This is hard because I know that, again, it comes down to usually it's the parents that didn't play that are the hardest, and the ones that you think are going to be the hardest usually are. But so I'm going to start with the positive because you can already assume the negative. Ask your child. Usually just ask your child what they thought of the game first. That's kind of how I'm not a parent, but that's how I would like my parents to do. I would say, what do you think of that game? What's one positive thing you did? And what's one thing you would like to improve? And then hopefully they give you those things. And then ask, and then be like, would you like to hear what I have to say? And then if the kid says no, you gotta let it go. But if they say yes, then you gotta talk to them. And yeah, like everyone's gonna deal with their kids differently. Don't yell at them because they also know. And nothing ruins the fun of a game when you just get shredded apart for 4 hours on your car ride home, and then you're crying and you just want to be on your phone. And it's like, get off your phone, and it never ends. So like that would be my advice to parents. Ask your kid, like, what was one thing you did that was good, one thing you want to improve, and then if they ask you for your advice, give it, or ask them if they would like to hear it, and then you have to respect their answer on that.
I think it's a completely different dynamic for a goalie ride home than it is for a player, because we can't question effort, right? So I've had a few bad hockey dad or bad goalie dad car rides home. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I haven't had my moments. But those moments have never been about performance. They've never been about effort, right? The questions that I've had, or the kind of the words I'm looking for here, not to make myself look bad, because I don't want to do that. But the negative discussions we've had is about preparation. Like, were you prepared? I saw you not doing your balls off the wall, but I saw you playing mini sticks with the team and running around. Like, where was your preparation? Where was your focus level? For a player, it's different because players get to actively make a choice if they want to block a shot, take a hit, be first on the puck. Like, those are questions about effort. So when we talk about goalie rides home, it's hard to have, in my opinion, it should be very hard to have a negative ride home from a parent, because it should be more just a discussion. And you're right, the discussion should only happen if that athlete wants to have the discussion. Because I can't get in a car and rip on a kid for effort, because we know goalies don't try to get score on. It's their bad reads. It's about patience. It's about situational stuff. So it's more like you let the kid talk if he wants to talk. And that, I think you nailed it. I think the best ride home is the one where mom or dad says, "How do you think you played?" And then let the kid talk. And if I said that to Weston, "How do you think you played?" It doesn't matter how he played. The answer is like, "Oh, pretty good." Like, all right. Right. And the only time it's been kind of a negative discussion was when I'm like, your preparation wasn't ready. You didn't try and warm up. You did not go through your pregame routine the way I've seen you do it before. And that's where a little bit of the negative discussions happen. But it's not like a forward or a defenseman where you can question if they are moving their feet, if they are engaged, because with goalies, it's very, very different. So the goalie ride home is its own kind of entity, as opposed to like the general ride home for hockey players.
And the mistakes that goalies make are magnified compared to those as a player. Like, player, you just get a lot of shifts and you're going to turn over, you get it back, make good plays, bad plays. And it's like, I don't even remember that turnover. Where it's like, you get 4 goals. You remember every single one of those goals. Everyone remembers them. And one thing that even took me a lot hard, I had to come to grips with this as a goalie. Like, when I watched my own film back, it's like the game that you see in the net is significantly different than the game that people in the stands see, or even at the camera angle sees. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, there's pucks I'd be like, they'd be like, oh, I should have saved that. Like it was so slow. Like everything was there. And then I watch it back in the game and I'm like, ooh, that was very quick. But like when you're in the zone, time stands still. And you're like, yeah, I could have saved that. Could have, should have, would have. But then when you watch it back, you're like, yeah, maybe that deflection off 4 guys and trickled in behind me, I wasn't going to stop it. So it's important to, like, you know, again, like, I think that was good. I didn't really even consider the difference between a goalie ride home and a forward or D-man ride home. They are very, very different things.
Yeah, I feel like the forward and the D ride home, there's a little bit of animosity there sometimes. And I feel like with the goalie ride home, it's a little bit different. I mean, you ride home with your dad, and I had a lot of discussions with your dad on how to approach the game ride home. And the message to him was like, only bring up the game if Jamie brings up the game. And that's kind of, I think, how the route he went. And yeah, Weston gets in the car and it's like, how do you think you played? And sometimes I want a little more and I get pretty good. He's like, all right, you want to go get a McFlurry? Yep. Then we go get McFlurries. Like, because it doesn't matter if you give up 7 or if you gave up 0, the only thing he's going to talk about is the one glove save he made anyway. So there's no point in me pressing because I was there. I watched the game. I know how it went, and he knows I know how it went. So
it would be nice to see the world in that glass, to see your game glass half full like that. I don't know what that's like. I only saw the glass half empty and everything I did.
Oh, I couldn't even play men's league after I was done playing because if I didn't get a shutout in men's league, I had to take the skate laces out of my laces and out of the shoes. Like there was no way that I could play and have fun. Like the game was not fun. And I still to this day have not put on goalie equipment other than one time because I lost a bet since 2006.
Same with me. That's why I don't play men's league. I'm gonna practice a little bit for the charity game we have coming up. The only time I put the gear on is when I have to film stuff for the app, because like I said, sometimes like the idea of it is nice, but I know myself, and I know that I give up 1 goal in men's league, and then just like I can't do it. I'm so bad, like, terrible. I can't.
Charity game.
Fox does a hockey fights cancer game every year. Where they raise a bunch of money. I'm probably starting in December. I think I'm going to start like a little blog series on that to raise a little bit of money. We had a young U12 or U14 girl pass away last year in the organization, so it's a big deal here, and it's the coaches versus the U15, U16 team. And so there's a couple of goalies in the coaching staff this year versus 0 at all. So we're either going to cycle through, but it's one because it's one you can enjoy. Is this
college? You're going to be on the door.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to definitely back up because I put the gear on significantly less than those guys. Dave DeSander, who was one of the co-owners of Future Pro USA, he came out and did a lesson with me last week, and I was like, I should probably lace him up. He got some sick new gear though. Oh, that's what I miss. Like that, he had some like the Bauer Digiprint, but it looked like the old Bauer Reactor, and I was like, he was sick. You don't think his looked, actually, you know what? His looked pretty good. But just like, when you make a save with the new pads and the rebound just blows up and you're like, oh, that, I was like, I need that.
Maybe I've never seen him in person. Maybe it's because I've only seen them online. And maybe they don't photograph properly or something. But to me, they look horrible. I mean, I didn't like the Bauer Reactor original graphic design anyway, so like I'm not a big fan. The old Nikolai Habibulin, remember how small he made those things? Like,
oh yeah,
down. But I don't know. They just, to me, they look. And even when like Ben Goudreau had them in the World Juniors a couple years ago, I was just like, not for me.
I have with Dave. I had another goalie. Had them in blue. They definitely look better in person. I would agree that they don't photograph well. Like when you photograph them, it just seems like there's too much going on, but in person they are pretty clean. But anyways, I miss new gear.
What else we got for parents? What else you got?
Communication. I think it's going to be a big one. Obviously communicating with your athlete, but it's just hard without being confrontational. It's important to have like an open line of communication with your coaches, not be like, hey, you need to change the power play, you need to do blah, 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 blah. Not playing, you know, Monday morning quarterback. But if there are concerns where it's like, hey, little Jimmy or Sally, like they, you know, they're really having a hard time or something, having that open line of communication is important because, like you said at the start, as coaches, we're trying to win. Like we actively are doing things to help the team. And if there's something that you do not like, something you would like to change or something you'd like to say, it is okay to tell the coach, because that is their job. Their job is to listen and respond. Now, we're not going to guarantee that, you know, little Sally needs to play every single game. That's probably not going to work. But if you're like, yeah, like they're really struggling with this, they're not having fun, and is it possible to maybe do a little bit more small area games? Something like non-confrontational, just questions, or it's like, hey, is it possible for this? Is it possible for that? But what I find is there's basically two extremes. There's the parents that come in guns a-blazing, and immediately the coaches go, absolutely not doing anything you say. Or there's the the parents that don't say anything and complain that nothing gets done, and then refuse when those lines of communication are extended. They go, no, it's not going to work, and don't say anything.
I think coaches and parents should be communicating.
Say that again. I missed cut out briefly.
At what age are we talking about here? Like, are we talking about like you want open lines of communication between parents and coaches?
I think the open lines of communication up to probably U15. U14 or 15. After that, you gotta but not like texting the coach every day. I think it's if there are major points of contention.
How do you have a major point of contention if you're a goalie dad? Unless it's minutes.
Outside of that, like, you know, actually, I don't know. That's hard. It's hard. I try to put personal stories into things without
giving
away too much.
Okay, so let me talk about this as the goal. I'll be goalie dad for the second. Okay. The only issue I could see as a goalie parent with a coaching staff is either one, missing minutes, like missing starts. And if he's missing minutes and you want to have that discussion, don't ask the question if you don't want to hear the answer, number one. The other thing would be development. Like, what are we doing budget-wise or association-wise to develop our goalies, right? That's a conversation that should happen before the season. That shouldn't be something that you go to in December, unless what you've talked about in September hasn't started or isn't, the things you've been told aren't happening. Then you can have that meeting. And then the third one would be, like, if there is a discrepancy in, like, if my kid is getting pulled for giving up 3 bad goals, but the other goalie is not giving up goals. But even then, like, that's not to me something that a parent should be approaching a coach about ever. So, like, talking from the goalie side, I don't think you should be approaching the coach unless your kid is missing starts, and it's not one. It's if he sits 3 or 4 in a row, then the first thing as a goalie parent you should be asking is, hey, have you talked to your coach? Why are you not starting? And if the kid is like, well, I don't know, the coach didn't talk to me, then the first thing would be like, well, I think you should go knock on his door and say, can we have a conversation? Find out where his mindset is. And if then as a parent, you have to get involved, you get involved. But you're not going to get me to jump on board with parents and coaches having open line communication. Like, that's your job, Philly. You're the goalie coach.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
And goalie coach, then, I mean, like, and we're talking about, it's different for you because you guys you bring in kids from all over, right? There's more things on your plate, like in terms of like billets and like recruiting and all that stuff. Like, right now we are a localized team. I'm not going to go and talk to our coaches if my kid misses a start. If I'm not smart enough to realize, like, hey, the other goalie just made 40 saves on 42 shots in the semifinal game, he should start the next game, then I'm not paying attention.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I would like to shun myself a little bit. But all those things you said, I agree. I would like to modify my statement and say those are the conversations that need to be had at the start of the year. And that should be the open line of communication. And then if something changes or deviates from that initial plan, then I think I as a parent should reach out. So I would agree that I would retract my statement.
How long have you been coaching?
Oh, like in my role that I have now?
No, like just like how long have you been, let's not say developer, okay? Because there's a difference between coach and a developer. How long have you been coaching? So team, atmosphere coaching.
Team, atmosphere coaching, not private coaching. I guess 4 years, 5 years.
Okay, so in those 5 years, has a parent meeting with a coach ever resulted in a positive outcome?
No.
If a parent has an issue and they want to have a discussion with the coach, I've never left those meetings with the coach being like, oh man, that parent was super right. I really just have to do what they want. It doesn't happen.
That is true. Yeah.
Like, it's not always going to. I know as a parent, you want to tell them what you think. And as humans, like we're programmed to be like, we want to give our opinion. We want to have this talk. We want to tell this guy exactly how it should be. It ain't going to help your kid all the time. Right? It just isn't going to help your kid. So I think we have to kind of curb that. And the first discussion should be like, hey, why aren't you playing? Did he tell you? Well, yeah, he said that Fred had a really good game and he's going to ride the hot hand. All right. Well, then when you get your opportunity, you better be ready, because if you want those minutes, then you've got to be the hot hand. And the only thing that I could see is, okay, here's our goalie development model. If our goalie development model isn't what we discussed by the time we get to Halloween or November, it's like, hey, can we just chat about like how this program and this development model is going to work? Because I was under the assumption we're going to be doing this and I haven't seen it yet. Like, is it coming? Do I have to go do private coaching out of my own budget, or do we have team budget? Like, that is something that I, as a goalie parent, yes, you can have those discussions about, but just caution yourself, parents. Don't ask the questions if you don't want to hear the answers.
Yeah, I retract my statement, because I was saying more the development side is a broad term on communication. Now that you explain it that way, don't do that. Don't do that. I was wrong. I was definitely wrong. That's very wrong.
I've been in those meetings. I've been in a meeting. I was coaching. It would have been U13 AAA, and a dad came in with the OMHA binder that was this thick on how to develop a hockey player. And he walked over and he handed me the binder. And he said, this is how you coach a hockey team. And he said, and this was in December. This father hadn't been to one game. I never even met him before. So I had to introduce myself. I'm like, who are you? So he tells me his name, gives me this binder. So he goes on this rant about everything that I'm doing wrong. Now, there's no live barn back then. This is 10 years ago. So he's just hearing from, I guess, his child's mother what is going on. So I'm kind of flipping through this binder. I stand up, I walk over, and I drop it in the garbage can, because it was absolute trash. This is every development model. This is how you coach hockey. I'm just like, this is for like 8-year-olds. But this guy was a certified coach that did all of this practice models, and he just had no idea how to handle people. And I never even seen him at a game. That meeting didn't go well. That was my very first meeting in minor hockey with a dad. That meeting did not go well for that father. And that kid, now, I didn't take it out of the kid. Obviously, it's not the kid's fault that his old man was nuts. But just caution yourself about what you think having a meeting with a coach will do. Because speaking from the coaching side, it ain't going to go well. It really isn't. And God bless all of those parent reps that have to filter some of the parents that want to go to the coach. Like, those people are doing Jesus's work, because I bet you they probably talk those parents down quite a bit and take maybe 50 meetings down to like maybe one a year, just by having a little bit of common sense.
Fair enough. Yeah, like you said, I don't know why I phrased it in such a horrible way. Development side is where my struggles have been. And so that's where the frustrations come in. Definitely. It's usually my first, when someone asks me like, oh, when it comes to game playing or anything like that, it's like, has your son or daughter talked to the coach? That's usually my first thing as well. Well, now that I have a foot in my mouth, and we're getting towards the end of the pod, is there anything that you want to add or throw in, whether it's a hot take or something that popped to your mind, something we didn't cover in today's pod?
I don't know. I've been like so busy the last week that I've watched a little bit of highlights. I don't really know what's going on too much out there in the world and the goalie world right now.
Anthony Stolarz
is, I don't know if we had this discussion in the pod or not. And I was like, hey, this guy's been a career backup. He's 31 years old. He's had opportunities to be the guy. He'd never been able to carry the ball. Well, that guy's carrying the ball right now for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and big 4-0 win against Boston last night. And I'm a Joe Woll guy, and I wouldn't put Joe Woll in the net right now because Stolarz has earned it. And that's not to say Joe Woll has not been good, because Joe Woll, I think, has been good. But Stolarz is, he's proven me wrong.
Joe Woll has also been very injured. A lot.
Well, he's healthy right now, we think. We don't know. We really know.
I think that's actually, we'll save that for another pod, but the athletes, especially the older ones that don't take care of their body and then are upset when they get hurt and then miss an extended period of time and then lose their jobs because they are not playing, and then they blame it on something where it's like, hey, I've actually never seen you once stretch after a game or do your warm up or work out. You only have to point the finger at yourself. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
I do have one thing to end off, and this one's pretty cool for you too. So I was in Buffalo this past weekend for tournament, and just grabbing a coffee at the concession stand, and I had a father come up to me and be like, hey, I know who you are, and I just want to say that I love the podcast that you guys are on, and I love the content that you and JB and Ben are doing, and like keep it up, like really, really good. So he was the father of, now forgive me if I get the first name wrong. I think his son's name was Tyler Dix, and he plays for Toronto Junior Canadiens, the same age as my son, 2015 team. And I watched him play 2 games this weekend, and very good goalie. Very, very strong, very good goalie. And they ended up basically running show on the tournament and killing everybody. But he was very, very solid goalie. So shout out to Tyler Dix's father.
And the reason he's so good is because he listens to the podcast. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. If you have comments, questions, throw them in there. We try to answer as many as we can, especially on YouTube. But we do look at all the feedback, so we appreciate it. And we'll see everybody next week.